Hi everyone, we are here in Lafayette, Louisiana, of course following a tropical storm, now Hurricane Barry, with our colleague here, Chris Williams.
How are you this morning? I'm not wearing a rain jacket and it's misting a little bit here. They tell us that Barry's a hurricane, but let's let the meteorologist tell you what she thinks about the whole situation.
Yeah, so early this morning we thought, the storm's moving on shore. It's going to make landfall early on. It's stalled quite a bit. Now for areas here in Lafayette, that means it's also stalling further. So we're not expecting to see the rainfall actually move in till later tonight. The winds have been picking up on and off throughout the morning, and we've been now seeing a little bit of a lull, and the mist, so the humidity itself has reached condensation levels, so now we're feeling a mist. So we have a lot of humidity in the air, and we've been really tracking a lot going on across Lafayette. So of course we're waiting to see the potential of the storm system and the actual bands make their way into Lafayette. But the track of the system, they're starting to move it a little bit further west, which means the rain will start to move into areas of southeast Texas further, and Lafayette could actually get hit pretty hard with some more heavy rain. But of course we're still gonna have to wait and check that out.
And we want to paint a little bit of a picture for you here. We are in downtown Lafayette, not far from the airport, and we're on the Vermilion River. And Carly and I have been watching this river overnight because one of the big concerns as you've been following this storm, is there's a concern that there'll be river flooding and then heavy rains in some areas, and then that'll cause some street floodings. But we've not seen any increase in the river. In fact, we've had very light wind. And you look at the trees there. The wind has been breezy at times, maybe some gusts in 30-mile-an-hour range. Nothing really to write home about, and really not a lot of rain to speak of. Carly, we've had a lot of this mist this morning.
Yeah, just a lot of mist going on, and really that's the extent of it. The only thing we've been really hearing about is the winds, and of course we've been hearing it overnight as well, all the winds hitting the trees here. The local news stations showing some down trees in areas, and also power lines, so they're trying to get that fixed very quickly with the power poles and all of that before the storm system itself starts to move in. So that's the only concern people in Lafayette are dealing with, is these winds today. So it's not until tonight that we're going to see the storm system itself begin to make its way inland, and then that's when we can actually see where the rain bands arrive. So the rain bands, that is going to be the entire story of the system, because the system itself, it's been all over the place. It hasn't been the typical hurricane that you see, the nice round circular formation. You can kind of see the track and it moves north. This isn't what we're looking at. We're looking at something that's kind of a sprawling arms, kind of a all over the place thing. So that means the rain bands themselves are all over the place, and it's really depending on the pulling and the motion of these bands and where they're going to be shifting. So that's what everyone is waiting on today, to get a better understanding of where these bands will move and how the heavy rainfall will begin impacting local neighborhoods, areas. And of course everyone is prepared yesterday with all those sandbags. People are taking this very seriously, and although the system itself doesn't look impressive on radar, it's something you still should be prepared for.
And in fact, while we're speaking, our phones are popping up that the National Weather Service is off. In fact, I'll show you if my phone will cooperate. The hurricane alert for our area. So that's something that definitely people here are starting to know. If they're not watching the Facebook Live, if they've not been watching their local coverage here or watching us, they do now know that we are in officially what is going to be the path of a hurricane. But as Carly was pointing out, it really is different than most storms most of us have covered, in that I'm standing out here without a rain jacket on, and we are an hour's drive from the coastline where the storm is supposedly starting to come ashore. And we've met a lot of people in this community who they've had a tough time in this part of Louisiana with flooding issues in the past recent years, when they've had some heavy rain situations. Yesterday we met a lot of really nice people. They were out there, and not only were they making sandbags for themselves, a lot of them stuck around to make sandbags for their neighbors as well. You can watch that right now on our Facebook coverage. But Carly, while you go ahead and give us an update on some of the situation for our friends that are just now joining us, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to try to show a little bit of the view here of the Vermilion River, because the wind is unextraordinary. It's not extraordinary, because when we start talking about hurricane, people are thinking, okay, where's the wind in the water? We don't have it here.
We don't have it, and it doesn't look like, if you were to look at this picture, you'd say it's just a breezy Saturday with overcast. It looks like nothing, and then in an instant we can get a major gust of wind. The mist starts to move in, and then you really start to feel the tropical storm winds, the hurricane type force winds that come through. Now you can see that tree over there to your left, Chris.
I'll work my way over there without giving anybody vertigo.
The trees there are starting to get a little bit heavy, and we've been seeing that this morning for certain areas where a lot of the trees have been uprooted due to some of these gusts. So it's not the sustained winds, the winds that stay at a certain speed, it's the gusts that help give it that extra push, and that's what we're pretty much covering today when it comes to Hurricane Barry, really the winds and their impact before we start moving into Sunday. And Sunday, that's going to be the true day. We thought it could be Saturday, turns out it's stalled out. It's going to be Sunday. Sunday looks like the big day with all the heavy rain and the potential for flooding, so definitely keep our eye on that and continue to bring in the coverage for you.
Okay, we're here on the Vermilion River. I'm Chris Williams. She's Carley Gomez. She's a meteorologist out of Sacramento. I'm a reporter out of Louisville, Kentucky. We're helping our friends at 12 News Now in Beaumont, as well as our station in New Orleans, WWL. And we've been on this beat for the last few days, helping out. If you have any questions for Carley on the meteorological side, let us know. We're having questions about how strong the winds might be in Port Arthur today from Donald Frazier.
Yeah.
That's pretty far away.
It is far. Right now we're looking at 30-mile-per-hour winds. Gusts could be up to 45, but until Barry itself makes landfall, then that's where we can see anywhere from 50 to 60-mile-per-hour winds. It really just depends when the storm system itself starts to get closer to you.
And Cheryl's asking you if you have any information on the Boulevard Peninsula. Do you have anything on what they might expect?
And look that up.
She's going to look that up while I give you a little bit of an idea. Connie says, since you moved to the west, what does that mean for Anacoca, Toledo Bend area? And then someone's asking about Beaumont. I think the big question for Beaumont is if these rain bands, and Carley's been talking about these rain bands and waiting to see what they do, because they're going to be very unpredictable because of the way that this hurricane is not really formed the way a typical hurricane is. So you might get a couple of inches of rain here, you might get more inches of rain somewhere else, but the further away you are from Beaumont, closer to the track, is really where you're going to hit stuff, right, Carley?
Definitely. And so for the question about Boulevard Peninsula, that area, the biggest concern for you at this point is going to be storm surge. It's not going to be 3 feet. We're not talking about that. It's just going to be some higher waves for you. I wouldn't be too concerned, but definitely just be, take precaution when it comes to being close to the water. Also, Beaumont looks as though we're probably still around the 2 inches, maybe 3 inches rain, depending on the track.
Let me interrupt you for just a second, because we had a question here about, a lady asked what I think is a time-sensitive question, which is, should the people of Lafayette evacuate? And what the officials here are saying is that if you feel the need that you need to, call 911, and they'll try to help you evacuate. But at this point, we know of no damage, we know of no issues, especially with water in the Lafayette area. But Carley, we saw a really interesting situation yesterday at the airport, did we not?
We did, and so as we were packing sandbags, people said, I wasn't actually concerned until I drove by the airport, and I said, why is that? And they said, there are so many buses that they have loaded up just waiting to evacuate people. So I said, I'm going to check that out. So we went over to the airport, and they said, yeah, we are loading up all the school buses, all the charter buses we can get together, and we're going to try to send those out to areas in need. So of course, if you need to find shelter evacuation, if you know your property is in an area that's prone to flooding, I would definitely take that time to get out while you can before the storm arrives, and don't get involved in the flooding. Of course, you all know the whole saying, don't drown, turn around. If you see high water, just don't drive through it. Your car can literally be picked up and shifted off in a matter of 2 inches of water. It doesn't take much water to lift your car.
All right, Natasha Beaumont has what I think is an interesting question for you, Carley, because you're a meteorologist. What are the chances that it will turn again and come in harder on southwest Louisiana the way Harvey turned and hit southeast Texas? And while you answer that, I'm going to try to show the Vermilion River.
Yeah, sure. So the difference with this one and Harvey is, number one, Harvey was very well organized before it started moving into the areas of Texas. So Harvey being so organized, and the strength of Harvey being how strong it was, that was able to continue the rotation. So if you have ever flung around maybe a rope or a string or a jump rope, just think of the motion of that, centrifugal motion, how quickly it just can go on its own. That was basically Harvey, able to spin and spin in one place like a top and really not have much movement. This year, being as widespread as it is and not really formed tightly, it's starting to break apart. We're getting a lot of dry air moving in. Dry air does not help these systems continue their motion. So that's what we're looking at. We don't expect the movement to be too far from the west, and if it is, let's just say it is, we don't expect it to just hover. we're expected to break off and do its own thing and continue its movement. So that's the biggest concern I think you have about Harvey, and that's what we're going to see with this system, the break apart.
Again, I'm Chris Williams, and she is Carley Gomez. She's a meteorologist, and I'm a reporter, and we are helping our Tegna sister station, 12 News Now, and we are in Lafayette. We are along the banks of the Vermilion River
yeah.
Here, and you can see how low the river is now, and at some point we may have to show you more water coming through here. One of the big things that we've been looking at over the last couple of days as we've gone from Beaumont into the east into Louisiana and now here into Lafayette, Louisiana, is that the concern is that the ground is so saturated here. If this storm dumps a lot of rain, it may be the rain that's the bigger problem than the wind, that the rain may build up, that they're having some river flooding along the Mississippi already closer into New Orleans. And the concern is that the waterways will just not have any place to wash that water out to sea as the rain starts to build up. But as you can see right now in the Vermilion River things, in fact, I don't know if I can zoom in here, but there's a really cool looking pelican bird here sitting there. We've seen birds out flying today in this mist. We haven't seen a whole lot of we haven't seen a whole lot of people hunkering down, or animals hunkering down. Once you start seeing the animals hunkering down, that's when you really got to be concerned. So, again, we're in Lafayette, and Barry is now a hurricane, but Carley, the meteorologist, says, hey, it's kind of a strange hurricane.
It is a strange hurricane. If you can't hear me, I hope you can hear me. I'm not sure if it has a mic issue or what's going on. I feel like I'm pretty loud. So the difference, this system and Harvey and a lot of the other big systems, is the formation of this specific hurricane. Hurricane Barry, they just named it a hurricane, although honestly, we don't expect it to remain a hurricane much longer. It's making landfall. That's the point when it starts to break up. And the system itself is already very disorganized, so it's already breaking up as we speak. Now, the rain bands of the system are starting to spread apart. They'll start pulling into what's trying to become a low-pressure tropical storm circulation. But at this point, it's just the bands of rain.
How unusual is it, Carley, that when we see these hurricanes, we keep hearing about eyes, and we're talking about how we came to Lafayette because we knew that the center of this storm, which typically is an eye, would most likely come over the Lafayette area. But we're not seeing a real defined eye. What does that mean?
Yeah, so the eye of the system itself, that is what you see on radar, the perfect little circle you can see right through, and that all occurs due to low pressure. When you hear about low pressure systems bringing rain, just think of that low pressure system as a really magnified pumping iron, lifted a bunch of weights, so to speak, and became this intense system. So now it just is so big, you can see the eye really well defined. Well, that happens over warm water. What we're encountering is a lot of dry air moving in from the north into the system itself. That doesn't help its rotation at all. Doesn't help the formation continue and flow, and that's where we're not seeing the eye of the storm.
And let's make it clear, we both have covered a lot of storms, and many of you have watched storms, or even me have had to deal with storms in the past. We're just fine with this thing fizzling out and not having to bring you all the high water and people evacuating. We really are rooting for that warm, drier air coming in from the north, going ahead and siphoning out some of this water and preventing it from dumping a whole lot of rain here. And that was something that we heard a lot yesterday from people in the Lafayette area as they filled up sandbags and helped their neighbors, or as you saw, the 100 or so buses, couple hundred buses that were out at the airport just in case they had to do mass evacuations, is people would just really rather not have to deal with this. They want to be prepared. They're taking it seriously because they have dealt with the devastation before, but they're just fine if the models don't turn out the way that they think that they're going to be. Early on in the week, it really did look like this was going to be something else, Carley.
Yeah, it really did, and you can't, you just have to be careful. You have to treat it as a real drill, because there's going to be that moment in time where it's actually going to happen and you're not prepared, and you just don't want to be that person, and you don't want to do that also to your family. You want to be as prepared as possible. So this morning we're actually seeing quite a bit of cars moving through here over this bridge. People are walking about over the bridge too, and seems like people are going about their business early Saturday and probably finally watching the local newscasts and seeing what's going on and saying, hey, we can get some stuff done today. Let's, do that. We're seeing a lot of cars, a lot of trucks going through. So no heavy rain at this point to stall anyone out. So if you do need to head out and you are in Lafayette right now and you need to get some stuff done today, I would do it before about 5 or 6 p.m. before it starts getting dark. We do expect the heavy rain to move in tonight.
But be aware that right now we're in a situation where there is an official hurricane coming on land. And so things can change. You know that if you live in the area. And if you're watching this from afar, keep the folks here in your thoughts and your prayers, because things can turn on an instant. But again, I'm Chris Williams. She's Carley Gomez. And we are in Lafayette. And we're going to be here with you on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter, and that throughout the day, as well as on 12 News Now, as we need to be. But again, keep apprised of the situation here as Hurricane Barry comes on shore.
Hurricane Barry, I don't think it's going to last long. We'll keep you posted if new developments occur, and we'll also be on Facebook Live. Thanks, guys.